Namaskarams to all. You know, when you are introduced in such a flowery language, the bar is set, you have to cross the bar for me to meet the expectations. So, Professor Rajesh Kumar has set the challenge for me. But I have not come here as a speaker. I have come here to share my experiences. I considered the society as the open air university. Of course, I had certain credentials as a chartered accountant. Even at a very early age, I achieved a certain level of performance, which at that age many people cannot achieve, and that I cannot say is because of me. That's also because of the opportunities I got. My life is a series of coherent accidents, and that's how I would put what makes me stand before you, and my credentials will have to be looked at in that sense. I first congratulate all of you because you have now got your degree, which is your address. This is a very important address for everybody in life. And more important, you are from IIT. Even more important, you are from IIT Chennai. This is very important. Even more important, according to me, is that you are from the Department of Social Sciences, which has some kind of helicopter view. Every other department has a limited knowledge, specialization. But this understands the behavioral characteristics of people, society, segments, and the relationship between different actors in human life. And so I am biased towards social sciences. This is one of the areas through which I understand even modern science. Of course, Deepak knows because I constantly trouble him and bore him with my thoughts. So I would like to share with you my thoughts because I consider that you are the window of India to the world. And you are the window through which the world will see India. This is the most important element, characteristics of IIT education, because IITs have come to occupy a brand for in the Indian context. The world looks at India through IIT men and women. And you are all living in a fortunate situation of rising India. Today it's a confident India. Today it is an India where you go abroad and you are received and you are respected. But we all lived through an India, a debranded India, a demeaned India. And I will tell you my experience when I was one of the topmost consultants in India. And not only in one field, I had a diverse experience in the sense of management, finance, capital market, law, accounts. In fact, I had a multi-dimensional experience because of the challenges that were being posed by the economic and political system at that time. And so, I was invited abroad by generally the non-resident Indian industrialists because they were very enamored of my reputation here. So I was invited by one of the most important industrialists in England, Swaraj Pal, and I went there and I was so happy I handed my passport at the immigration. He said, "Why have you come here for?" I said, "I have come because a client of mine has invited me." Many people come like this. "When are you going back?" I said, "I'm going back tomorrow evening." "What is the guarantee you will go back?" "Sir, I have a British Airways return business class ticket. Many people come with the ticket, but they don't go back." I was so upset. I asked him, "What is so great in your country that I will leave everything, my profession, my house, my relationship, everything that I consider as something most important in my life, I will leave and stay in this country. What is that great thing in your country which you are thinking which will make me stay here?" He was shocked. Then I told him, "You please prepone my ticket today evening. I will not step into your country." He was shocked. Then he went and consulted somebody, his superior, and he came. I said, "He has demeaned my country. I don't want to enter this country." It was 1992. Then they all had a consultation. They said, sorry, we are very sorry, sir. No, I want a written apology. Then we settled for an oral apology. My client was standing there to receive me. He was one of the richest persons in England. That never mattered. India was a demeaned country, debranded country, disliked country. This is how we had built the reputation of India. And from there, you are now in a very paradigm shift. You are now an India where IITs, IIMs, the universities of India had produced such great children who have gone and shown their competence. And the Indian people have sustained a democracy, a civilizational democracy like which nowhere you see in the world. And it is regarded as one of the most stable social democracies. And it is not an individual democracy. It is not something which is decided on votes of any particular individual. There are groups voting, there are castes voting, there are religions voting, there are languages voting. This kind of multiplicity, this diversity which you see in India, if you put India on the one side and the rest of the world on the other, you see more diversity in India than the rest of the world put together. How does this democracy functions? No one has even asked this question. No one has tried to understand this question. And I think the IIT Social Sciences Department must compare the literature that has evolved over a period from the time of the Vedas, how we had a model of consultation. How many people know that when Rama was chosen by Dasharatha as the king, he called the entire Sabha in which there were barbers, there were masons, there were washermen, there were sweepers. All of them were there. And Dasharatha says, Rama is my choice. But that doesn't mean he needs to be your choice. You please tell me whether my choice is correct or not. This is the tradition. This is in Valmiki Ramayana. We don't know anything about India. And we compare ourselves with the what we call as the liberal democracies. And then we are said this is an illiberal democracy. And we demean ourselves. And we allow others to demean ourselves because we have no understanding about what India is, and that is what I am going to tell you today, because this is not something which you will learn in the departments here, on the books here, on the lectures here, or in the media here. You have to travel across the country. This is what two great men did. You know, they are the people who build the brand of India. They are the confident people who build a confident India. At a time when India lacked confidence, it had no name worth for somebody to go and say, he is an Indian. And I will first take Swami Vivekananda. You know, we all know Swami Vivekananda delivered a beautiful speech in Chicago on the 11th of September 1893. But do we know how did he reach there? What are the problems he faced? You see, there are two circumstances in which you have to set Swami Vivekananda and how he built the brand of India at a time when India had no brand. Unless you see that, you will only quote Swami Vivekananda as someone, his output would be shown, but the challenges that he faced, the nation faced, our civilization faced, our people faced, our economy faced, unless you integrate it into the personality of Swami Vivekananda, you will not know how we as Indians should react, because this is not one world, one family, one village is all gone. Today everybody is fighting for their own space. Everybody using their intelligence, their competence, their resources, their technology, their army, their advancement, their lead against everybody. So we are living in a very different world. In just 30 years, the world has turned upside down. You are facing this world. We have faced a different world. We have faced different challenges. Unless you, the competent future of India, are exposed to what happened in the past, how our great men faced those challenges. And the first person I will say is Swami Vivekananda. You know, when he set out to travel for 5 years, he went on foot as a parivrajaka. Parivrajaka means he will go and beg for food. Wherever he will get food, he will eat. Wherever he has a place, he will sleep. 5 years he traveled throughout India in the north, and he came down to Kanyakumari. In this 5-year period, there were great famines in which 12.9 million people died. Go back to that. Don't laugh. Please listen to me. You called me to speak, and I have come here to speak because I am a very serious person. I look at you as serious people to think not only for yourselves, but also for the people of India, our nation, our economy, our polity. So you must all be serious to listen when somebody is saying some serious things. Otherwise, I should not be called here. So please listen, because I have come here to say something serious, because my time is as precious as your time, and perhaps more precious. Okay? Please listen. And wherever he went, there was hunger. And he was begging. People didn't have food. Then only he devised the view that religion cannot exist where there is hunger. That directed his whole philosophy. That directed his whole understanding of the Indian society. That directed his whole discourse in America. And that is the first point we have to make. The second point is, from here he travels from 1888 to 1893 May, and then set out to travel to America. Part 1. Part 2. Have you heard of Rudyard Kipling? Anyone? Have you heard of a poem called The White Man's Burden? Can one person raise the hand? Rudyard Kipling was an Indian, half Indian. He was an Anglo-Indian. He was born in Bombay. He wrote a poem in 1888 when America conquered Philippines in the Sino-Spanish War, in American-Spanish War. So the question in America was whether they should take over Philippines and rule Philippines. At that time, Rudyard Kipling wrote a poem sitting in Bombay. It is the burden of the white men who are civilized to correct the uncivilized people of Asia. You have to now take over Philippines. This is the poem he wrote sitting in Bombay. Because this matter was being discussed on the 1st of February 1889, the New York Sun publishes his poem. The next day, the New York Times publishes his poem. This is happening on the 1st to 4th February. On the 7th February, his poem is quoted in the Senate. And the discussion is, you see, he is in that sad society, rotten society, backward society, uncivilized society. He is saying it is our responsibility to correct that, civilize them. And he says, the senator argues that we must conquer and rule Philippines. That is how Philippines was taken over by America. White man's burden. We were regarded as underdeveloped. It is in this background Swami Vivekananda goes there. And how does he go? When he goes there, the conference is in September. He reaches in May. And he finds Chicago costly. He cannot live there. And so he takes an overnight train and comes to Boston. Because Boston is a little cheaper. And in Boston, he doesn't know what to do. He accidentally meets a lady in park. The lady was attracted by the spiritual dimension of this person and asked him, "Who are you?" Then he says, "I have come for a conference. And I don't know, because I have to stay here for the next 3-4 months. Then she said, "You don't worry. and then she took him to a professor. The professor was John Henry Wright. John Henry Wright and Swami Vivekananda had a 4-hour discussion. Swami Vivekananda said, I have come here for the conference, but I don't have an invitation. He doesn't have a visiting card. There are people who belong to this sect or that sect, this Buddhist society or that Buddhist society. Swami Vivekananda was a wanderer. He didn't have an address, he didn't have a letterhead. So he told John Wright that I have no credential. After 4 hours of discussion, you know what John Wright said? John Wright said, to ask you, Swami, for credentials is to ask the sun to state its credentials to shine. That was his impact in 4 hours. Because Swamiji talked about science, about politics, about history, about sociology. Because knowledge is not divisible into silos. Silos limit knowledge. Specialization limits knowledge. Knowledge is something higher. Today science is going to the extent of seeing matter in mind. No division between matter and mind. The Newtonian science is not the truth. It is a fact. It is not the truth. Because we see it as a fact. Truth is behind the fact. So Swamiji was laying down the entire campus of the Indian philosophy, its approach from where? He is seeing only hunger, he is seeing only poverty, he is seeing only suffering. From there he goes and talks about the greatness of our philosophy, our country, our past, our history, our society, our great men. Then Professor Wright says, I will give you the introduction. You know what introduction he writes? He writes an introduction to the selection committee. You don't look at this man as an individual. See what I am quoting. Here is a man who is more learned than all learned professors of Harvard put together. You know this? Do we know this? We know nothing about India. We have heard of Vivekananda. And the man goes with such sufferings of people. And a person like us, when we go there, how great that country is, how worthless my country is. This is how we will think. But he thought of the reverse. He thought that we have come here to convey something. And Professor Wright accepts it. And then he goes, the story doesn't end there. When Swami Vivekananda reaches Chicago, he finds he has lost the address of the selection committee. And he sleeps in a van, open van. And a lady comes, she looks at him from a window. And again, she was enamored by his look. He comes and asks him, what is it? Then he says, this is my fate. I have got this letter. And on that basis, she takes him, and that is how he delivers a lecture. You know what is that lecture? You must see that lecture in this light. I am going to quote to you. He spoke for just 2.5 minutes. The 2.5 minutes shattered the entire audience. I am going to quote to you what the Americans have written. First, I will quote what Swami Vivekananda spoke. I thank you in the name of the most ancient order of monks in the world. I thank you in the name of Mother of Religions. I thank you in the name of millions and millions of Hindu people of all castes and sects. I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance, because everybody was talking about religious tolerance. Swamiji said tolerance is a limited virtue. Tolerance means I am right, you are wrong. I am good, you are bad, but still I tolerate you. Our philosophy is not like that. He said we accept all religions as true. I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal tolerance, but we accept all religions as true. Something which shook them. I am proud to belong to a nation which sheltered and the persecuted and the refugees of all religions, of all nations of earth. I am proud to tell you that we have gathered in our bosom the purest remnants of Israelites who came to southern India and took refuge with us the very year in which their temple was shattered to pieces by Roman tyranny. And I am proud to belong to the religion which has sheltered and still fostering the remnants of grand Zoroastrian nations. Parsis don't exist in Persia. They exist in India. They not only exist in India, they are the top industrialists, top lawyers, top professionals. Do we see it that way? Then he says, sectarianism, bigotry, and its terrible descendant, fanatism, have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilizations. He is only talking about them, and sent the whole nations to despair. Had it not been for this terrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is today. And now I am going to tell you how Americans recorded this. J.V. Nash, 30 years after Swami Vivekananda's demise, he recaptures in the Open Court magazine, and I am quoting him. Coming to Chicago without credentials, representing no particular religious group, never having made a public address, he has never spoken to an audience, and without even a prepared speech, he took the parliament by storm. When he was introduced, he looked upon a yawning audience which has sat through a day and day of manuscript reading. He hesitated, nervously, obviously. Then a sudden access to power and eloquence came upon him, and he began to speak. As by an electric shock, the assembly began galvanizing into eager attention. After saluting the audience as brothers and sisters of America, he waited for 2 minutes until the applause subsided, and then he began. He was allotted 5 minutes. He lost 2 minutes in the applause. Before a dozen words left his lips, the great hall was shaking with storms of applause, as if in a political convention. And when his brief extemporaneous address was concluded, everyone was asking, who is this brilliant, eloquent, magnetic young Hindu, the Swami Vivekananda? Probably never in any similar gathering did so short a speech created so profound an impact. It consists of just 6 short paragraphs. The Open Court previous magazine, 1925. This is being written in 1933. I made this religious genius the subject of a special article. It is titled The Message and the Influence of Vivekananda, and to it must refer to those who wish to a more extensive part which played in the parliament of religion. This is a rotten country, the country of hunger, illiterate country, divided country, caste-oriented country, religious rivalry. This is the image of India. But I tell you what the organizers of World Religious Conference said. This is important. As the parliament concluded, many felt the universalist vision should be sustained. One of the Unitarian means Christian church, conveners suggested that the representatives of the world traditions convene again in 1900 on the banks of the Ganges in the ancient city of Benares. How much courage the man must have had, the confidence he must have had to see the rise of India when there was nothing, when everything was gone, when 1.3 crore people died in 10 years in hunger. These are people who sustained India. They built the confidence of India. They built the brand of India. That is how it started. Then I will come to Mahatma Gandhi, a person who lived closer to our time, closer to the challenges that we face. You know, Mahatma Gandhi went to England in 1931. Before that, you must know how Mahatma Gandhi led, because Swami Vivekananda and Mahatma Gandhi gave me the idea of touring across the country. 7 years I traveled across the country, shut down my profession. I completely cast aside my regular reading. I completely shut my academic work. I am one of the most voracious readers. I thought I must study this society, because Swami Vivekananda studied the society. And when Mahatma Gandhi came to India in 1915, he met Gokhale. Gokhale said, the India which you left is not the India to which you have come. You must travel this country for 1 year in third-class rail compartments. Then only you move with people, talk to people, understand people. Mahatma Gandhi travels across and he comes to Madurai and he sees a farmer who is half naked. He has nothing to cover the top. He felt this man is India. Then he changes his dress completely. And Mahatma Gandhi in coat and suit could never have conquered India. He connected, his dress itself was communication. And he connected to the soul of India, to the people of India, the masses of India. Democratized the Congress, which is only a petitioning institution of intellectuals. He transformed it into a mass movement. And in 1931, the British invited him to the Round Table Conference. When he went to the Round Table Conference in the same dress, he didn't wear, because I am going to England, I have to wear a different dress. When he went there, you know what he was told? Churchill said, this half-naked fakir, he is now walking up to see the emperor. How unfortunate our country is. And he was trivializing Gandhi. And then Gandhi goes to the second Round Table Conference, where he is invited by the king. And there is dress stipulation. They said for morning breakfast, you are to come like this with coats. Mahatma Gandhi said, I will come only like this. If you want me, I will come, otherwise I won't come. The foreign minister of England pleaded with the king that this man is so important. To deal with India, you have to deal with him. Please tolerate him. When Mahatma Gandhi went there, it's a beautiful, in fact, I feel like reading it out again, because these are not things which you read. These are not things which in media publishes. This is not the thing of public discourse in India, because these open facts are held secret in our education system, in our public discourse by our media. What should be shaping our character, our feelings, our sentiments, our respect for the country are all suppressed. Now I am going to read out to you what because these two important things which I don't want to. Now, it's this simple clothing called khadi, handspun, his legs open. When Churchill mocked at his look, everybody, working people in Britain, loved Gandhiji's humility and connected to regular folks. The Royal Tea Party, the next Round Table Conference in England, Gandhi was invited to tea with George V and Queen Mary. The place strictly required guests to wear formal morning dress, stripped trousers and morning coats. Gandhiji refused to change, entering the palace in his standard handspun khadi loin cloth, a loosely draped shawl and basic sandals. When asked if he felt adequately dressed, mark the words, if he felt adequately dressed to meet King George V at the Buckingham Palace, see how the man replies. Mahatma Gandhi famously replied, the king was wearing enough clothes for both of us. That is the man. See the confidence. From a country which is slavish, from a country to a country which is the master. And that is how he projected his own. And then the improperly dressed Gandhi he didn't want to see, but he is pleaded. And then he asked this question, I don't want you to revolt against me. Everybody thinks Mahatma Gandhi will respond violently. Gandhi said, this is not the occasion when you have invited me for a dinner for me to discuss politics. This is how people struggle to build India. India's confidence, its culture, its value systems. And I will go to a foreign example. In Yugoslavia, I know how many of you are familiar with 1990s. 1990 shaped my entire understanding about the world, about economics, about sociology, about finance, about monetary system. I am going to talk about the monetary system which evolved at that time. You know, Yugoslavia was one of the communist countries or socialist countries which had collapsed, like Russia. Russia went to IMF, and the same problem was there in Yugoslavia. Their currency had collapsed. I will read out the inflation figures. You will be amazed at the inflation figures which were going on at that time. The inflation rate was, hourly prices were rising at 2%. Daily rate 62 to 65. Price doubling every 34 hours. Annualized level, extrapolated out, the annualized inflation rate reached a mind-boggling 116 trillion%. That's the inflation. So, at that time, Yugoslavia was facing civil war. Milosevic was a great patriot. He was fighting to keep Yugoslavia united. No money. The entire world was against him. Europe was against him. America was against him. United Nations was against him. There were sanctions, but the man was fighting. So he asked Dragoslav Avromic, a 90-year-old economist. He was in Switzerland at that time. Dragoslav, what should I do now? Do I surrender? He said, don't surrender. And he said, create their currency name was a dinar. He said, develop a second currency called super dinar and link it to the foreign exchange reserves you have and make it convertible. People will develop confidence in that country, confidence in the country, confidence in the economy, confidence in you. They will develop self-confidence. Then when they announced it, you know what was the overnight, the inflation became zero. And the foreign exchange, everybody thought foreign exchange would fly out of Yugoslavia. Foreign exchange reserves increased by 45%. These are people who build nations' confidence. Be it in spiritual field, be it in your politics, be it in economics. It is building national confidence that matters. National confidence transforms into national brand. You go outside India, you are not an IIT student or a scholar, you are an Indian IIT student. When I went to England or America, I was one of the topmost consultants in India. I was always governed by the idea of being an Indian consultant. India is either my limitation or it is my ladder. Build an India which will be a ladder. You have got a great opportunity. You have got to psychologically shift yourself. There are 100 things to feel that our country could be better. But there are also 100 things to feel your country is better than our country. Build that confidence. You are going to be the window of India to the world and of the world to India. Use this opportunity not just to promote your career, to promote your interest, to promote your selfish life. Everybody does it. But you have to do something more because you have got an opportunity. As I told the IIT management students when I was asked to address them because I delivered a lecture like this, the entire IIT assembled and said, sir, you have to take a course for us because this is not what we are taught in our institution. In fact, it's all in the television video. One Bihar student said, what is the use of keeping all these buildings? If they don't teach us all that you have said. Then I was asked to be a visiting faculty for 4 years. Of course, I could not continue later. I loved it. In fact, the first thing I told the management students, SJOM management student is not to attend campus interviews. Set up your own profession. Set up your own business. I was so happy in 2019 when I went to Indore. Two young men came and touched my feet. Deepak was one of the students in that from 2011 onwards, and they touched my feet and said, "Sir, we had a small family business. We thought of going abroad, but after we listened to you, we decided to build that business. Now we are employing 1,200 people, and our turnover is 1,500 crores. They are the builders of India." Thank you very much.